this could be an absolutely terrible idea. Because today we're doing a flight of the Diageo special releases from 2013. All of them at once. With no notes. So this is going to be a while. I'm going to try to keep it under 2 hours, but we're going to see. I have never done a flight like this before, and that's kind of why I wanted to try it. Just to see, you know, so whereas other channels would be content to work through all of these monsters in the course of like a month, maybe 2, we're just going to do them all in a oneer and then move on. This is also going to crush my record for the most expensive video I've ever done by cost of individual bottles by a lot. I don't know what was leading. It was either the Rochelle or that Foursquare thing I did a couple of years ago. Now the thing about this is a set that Diageo puts out every year. There's a couple of I would say core malts that always make it in, but then they'll change out some other stuff for fun, give some other distilleries in the portfolio a little bit of the spotlight, which I approve of, right? That's kind of the cool part, to see Glendullan, you know, get it to do for once. Now in the past, these have been well, they still are like high proof, very pure releases, but now there's a lot of finishes going on, and we shall talk about those. Oh yes, we will. Now this set of 8 kind of breaks itself into basically 2 groups. We've got 3 without finishes and 5 with finishes. So accordingly, I'm going to kind of do them in that order, and then we're going to add water. Go through one more time. Once again, I have not taken notes on these. I will be basically trying them fresh. And here we go. Godspeed to me. Okay, starting off. So with among the unfinished releases, I got a Rose Isle, which is this. I've got a Kleinlich, and I've got a Glenkinchie. So I'm super duper excited to try these, especially this first one. This is the Rose Isle Origami Kite 12-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. Matured only in ex-bourbon and refill casks. First fill and ex-bourbon and refill. Now, what is interesting about this is that Rose Isle is a very, very new distillery. They only started producing in, I think it was 2010. When it was first created, it had this reputation as being this sort of gigantic industrial monster. It's actually smaller than Glenfiddich and some of the other distilleries of the Speyside, which makes some sense. Like this is meant to be a producer for Diageo's blends, whereas those other distilleries are making for blends and also single malts. I think this is an Elgin-based distillery. I don't completely remember. The cool thing about them is that they are meant to produce a wide range of different distillates. So they've got regular old condensers and they've got warm tubs as well. So you can switch back and forth between them. They got a relatively long fermentation. I think it's like 3 days. So interesting things happening at Rose Isle. But you know, and this is, so far as I know, the first official bottling they've done, aside from just a couple of like little samples tossed around here and there. So potentially interesting, but you know, the spirit has to live up to that potential. On the nose, yeah, I'm getting a lot of bourbon wood. Vanilla, a little bit of like just cooperage sawdust. You know, apple slices. A little muesli. It's quite spicy, actually. There's some kind of a red curry going on. Black pepper. almost like a. Okay, imagine you like took some peanuts, or really more like nutshells, and kind of rolled them around in some like Sichuan peppercorns or something. That's really the impression I'm getting on the nose. Yeah, there's a spiciness to this. One of the other cool things about Rose Isle is they have their own maltings. Like they're right next door. So I'm guessing like almost everything made here is malted like on premise. That's nifty. There's, I mean, it's very fruit forward. There's some like tinned peach happening, a little bit of apricot, really a lot of apple and pear and vanilla. What makes it interesting is that kind of slightly nutty and very very kind of pepper driven aspect. Fun. Um, Maybe a little bit of greenness too, a little bit of like sautéed Brussels sprouts or something, but nice. All right, on the palate. So this is not inexpensive. Honestly, none of these are inexpensive, but I think this is one of the cheaper options. It's like $150, something like that. And honestly, this is pretty good. It's you're definitely getting a lot of vanilla, a lot of bourbon cask, creme brulee, like vanilla latte. That's all happening. What's kind of lifting this for me is that sensation of spiciness, pepperiness, the kind of Szechuan nuttiness, if that makes sense. Relatively simple. It reminds me of just like a ton of, 10, 14-year-old signatory picks I used to buy from Binny's like 10 years ago. I mean, it's very, very much in that style. Like Glen Elgin's, for example. Um, Lots of apple, lots of pear, kind of mashed apple and pear. A little bit of, oh, what is that? Like some kind of tea note. Like a pu'er tea note, but not like expensive pu'er. This is like restaurant pu'er. Some spiciness, peach again. Little touch of orange peel, but not a whole lot of citrusiness. And, some nice kind of grainy hints. More sort of cream of wheat than muesli on the palate here. That's about all there is to it. It's a very nice kind of oak and fruit and malt driven malt whiskey. And you know what? That's okay. The price is a little bit extortionate, but you know what? I'm okay with this. 3, 4, 5. Considering the swearing I'm probably going to deliver in the finishes section of the flight, I'm okay with this. Let's see if 5 is the right number of squirts. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna run out of water real soon, I guess. All right, here we go. Moving on. Yeah, I like this a lot. I'm gonna score it out of the park, but we shall come back to that. All right, moving on to the Kleinlich. This is called the Jazz Crescendo. Okay. I don't know what jazz they're talking about, but apparently it's a crescendo, and this is a 10-year-old, and it was aged all in again ex-bourbon American oak. 57. All these are kind of like in that 55 to 58, 59% ABV territory. This one is 57.5. The previous one was 56.5, if you're curious. And again, no finish on this. Jazz Crescendo, Kleinlish 10-year-old. On the nose. Actually, also very spicy. So very, very fruit-driven, this. But definitely also very floral. I mean, so if you were coming to Kleinlish with kind of I would say the veteran's view of it, which is the emphasis on all the weird tasting notes, the wax, the gunpowder, all the weird stuff. You might be shocked to come to this one because it's really dominated by flowers and fruit. Yeah, I am getting mango. I am getting papaya. Some lemon. Definitely some lemon. More like lemon peel and lemon pith than anything else. No real like waxiness to speak of. There's some black pepper certainly. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of fruit here. You know, I mean, honestly, my first point of connection is some old Irish whiskeys I was able to have, you know, a long time ago. The double distilled ones, the Coolies, not so much the Bushmills and stuff. Yeah, like Coolies is my first thought while I'm nosing this. There's even a little bit of grassiness, but really it's more floral than grassy. It's just fresh field flowers, tropical fruit, some banana in there. I haven't gotten banana on a malt in a while. Really, okay, maybe more like fried plantain than banana, but still. Now the oak's starting to assert itself, but it's actually less oaky than the Rose Isle was. So I'm getting vanilla. I'm getting a little bit of like it's like an English breakfast tea sort of note. It's nice. It's certainly a cleaner take on Kleinlish, and you know what? I'm all here for it. Kleinlish doesn't always need to taste like lamp oil and like wax. This is okay on the palate. That's very good. So we're a step or two above the Rose Isle, at least initially. I mean, I'm still reminded. I used to be able to get like bottles like this for 60, 70 bucks a pop, like all day long, like 5 or 6 years ago, and now this is a special release that is, you know, probably pushing 200 bucks. I don't remember how much this one costs. But it's bringing it. Oh yeah, great development. Arrives very concentrated and kind of peppery, and then just explodes with fruit all over my mouth. Again, we're talking fried plantains, papaya, guava, mango, apple as well, lemon peel, orange peel. Quince as well, and lots of flowers, but still with a fair amount of spiciness. The pepperiness is kind of adding to the texture and the mouthfeel of this. Really good finish for a 10-year-old. Yeah, it okay. So it shows its youth, right? The mouth length is. It's not that it's short. It's that it's still kind of getting back there, but it's most of what is happening at the front of my mouth, um, which is just kind of an indication of a younger spirit. Um, but yeah, it's holding on really well. It feels nice and textured, and it's really fruity. Aside from that, the extra kind of pepperiness and a savory thing, which is kind of hard for me to put my finger on. Like, well, there's English breakfast tea. Did I mention the oaky notes? There's a lot of oaky notes on this too, like creme brulee, English breakfast tea, vanilla, all that's in there. But there's this little hint of I know not what, something savory, like oh, what is that? Well, actually, it might just be paraffin. It might be a little bit of lamp oil, just a touch, just a tinge in there to remind me that hey, this is not Ireland. This is Scotland. Um, Regardless, I am delighted with this. I still think it's too expensive. I'm gonna think of all of these as too damn expensive, but um, it's a very good bottle. Let's give it some water. We'll come back to it. 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 is going to be right for all of these. Maybe a hair bit more, like three or four more drops. Okay. Already halfway down through the water. I'm getting worried. All right. And my marker is not sticking to the bottle. That's great. Okay. All right. Moving on to glass number 3. This one I am actually very excited about. Glenkinchie, 27-year-old, and this is called the Floral Treasure. Glenkinchie is notable in the Diageo stable for being one of the, in some ways, the least notable member, which is a little bit unexpected in a way. I mean, it's Glenkinchie 12 is generally thought of as just very smooth and easygoing and easy drinking and stuff. And it just kind of gets lost in there among the more powerful and more characterful, distillates that they have at their disposal. But if you actually look at the stats for Glenkinchie, I mean, they've got worm tubs, man. It's double distillation, not triple, and they have these sort of really interesting kind of big honking huge fat stills to distill on. So you would think that Glenkinchie can potentially, bring the goods if it needs to. But I've just never had one that's, been presented like this. Frankly, I've never seen one at the independent bottlers in a store I could buy it at ever. So, but this is the first time I've had one at this age and at this presentation. So, 27 years old, refill American and European oak barrels and butts, 58.3%. I think this is the most expensive thing in the set, which is interesting. And let's dive in. Interesting. I am getting it's a chocolate orange, but it's like a dark chocolate orange thing. Ooh. So it's a dark chocolate orange, made from the best original materials you could think, like the best oranges and the best dark chocolate. You've just dropped it around in some dirt and rolled it around, and that's exactly what this smells like. It's a dirty, really well made chocolate orange. Lots of tea notes coming through. It's brewed tea. It's black tea. English breakfast tea again, really, but it's also like just tea leaves. Yeah, just lots and lots of like just you opened up a tin of tea leaves and just threw them up in the air and you smelled it all. There's a more general leafiness to this too, like just like not dried leaves. These are like dead leaves that have fallen off the tree recently, so they're still a little bit green. Um, that's going on. The oranginess is really prominent. There's some prune as well, dried dried cherry, fig. So there is some sherry influence going on, but it's not it's not a it doesn't feel like a very fresh sherry. This is like a grungy, earthy, dirty sherry, but it's laid back at the same time. A little bit of like an old book with like old leather. A touch of better than bullion beef, if you know that note. Or really, no, okay, better than bullion beef, but at the same time, like almost a red wine reduction. So like you boil down some Bordeaux for a sauce or something. Not nice Bordeaux, cheap Bordeaux, but nice. Black pepper. Ah, okay, here comes the malt. Malted milk balls creeping through. A little bit of my beloved apple cheese happening. Just straight up just straight up malted barley to some extent. Okay, this is actually a very deep and dense and kind of mobile nose. It's moving around on me. It's kind of throwing some new stuff at me the more I spend time with it. Okay, but I mean, considering the price point, I think this is like $400 or something. It really needs to be doing that, right? So let's see what happens on the palate. Does it bring it at the level that a $400 spirit needs to? No, it does not. No, it's very, very, very good though. So again, we're getting dark chocolate orange with dirt and a lot of tea leaves. That's the kind of the main core character here. Dried grass with clumps of mud. Some dried fruit, the prunes, the figs, dried cherry, a little bit of golden raisin, lots of black pepper happening, lots of spiciness. But again, it's kind of the way this is delivering what it's got that is most impressing me. This is really kind of covering my entire mouth in delicious, dark chocolate and mud, and I'm really enjoying that. Touch of floral to it as well. It's not really fresh flowers. It's just a hint of like old school cologne. Just a little ding of like I don't even know. I don't do scents. I'm sorry. That was something I dipped into 20 years ago and I never really bothered. Yeah, you're getting the beef bouillon, and so footnote. One of the things I discovered is most recipes you will have, when you make stews, you will have a mixture of, beef broth and then like a wine reduction thing. What I realized is you can just use twice as much wine, but just throw your better than bouillon beef in there and intensify your flavor. So this is really what that tastes like. It's like wine reduction with a ton of like bouillon paste thrown in there. It's very savory. It's very muddy. I like it a lot. But then there's those little high tone notes too. The cologne and the orange peel and a little bit of oh, what is that? It's a coffee bean, but it's like an aromatic coffee bean. It's not Kenya. Maybe like a light roast Java or something. Does that make sense? It's not, I mean, in some ways, this is not so far out of left field versus something like just standard Johnny Walker Blue Label. It's doing that kind of musty cask plus tons of peppery, muddy mouthfeel thing. And it's doing that better, you know, given what you would expect at twice the price. But it's got its individual voice here. I'm actually really kind of enjoying this, and it makes me want to go out and try other well-presented Glenkinchies. Sadly, those don't really seem to exist. So we're going to add some water to this, go back to it. 2, 3, 4, 5. And with the 3 non-finished whiskeys out of the way, we can get the anger started. Oh, that's quite good. It's too damn expensive, but the Glenkinchie is actually quite good. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Next up, we have 2 Dufftowns, but not actual Dufftown distillery, just 2 distilleries from Dufftown, if that makes sense. First up is going to be the Singleton of Glendullan. This stuff, this is called the Silken Gown, and it's a 14-year-old, and it is finished in, wait. No, wait. Sorry, I fucked this up. I knew I would screw up some. Wait, did I screw this up? No, I didn't. Okay. No, I didn't. I just in my notes here on what these is. That is where I messed these up. Okay, so this is the Glendullan Silken Gown, 14-year-old, and it is finished in Chardonnay de Bourgogne casks. So Burgundy casks, white Burgundy casks, which is exciting for me because usually when you see red wine cask used is red wine, and especially in finishes, I don't think that works very well. Not to say there's anything wrong with just straight up red wine maturation if you give it time. Like if you give your spirit, 4 or 5 years of secondary maturation, or just keep it in there the entire term. Give the spirit, give what you start with and the cask time to actually marry and kind of get balanced off with each other. Then it can work. It can work beautifully. But to just throw it in there for a finish, I'm not a big fan. We'll get to that in a second though with the Mortlock. But this is different. This is a Chardonnay finish, so a white wine. And that's a different ballgame. And it's not even like American Chardonnay. It's not the oaky, buttery stuff. We're talking like proper French Burgundy, right? That's been made to actually still have some white wine character, some acid, some minerality to it. So I'm very curious to see if they can pull this off, if this actually adds good things to the spirit or not. Glendullan is, I've had it before on a number of occasions. It's fine. It's not the most distinctive of Speysides out there, but it's fine, and I'm glad I would be glad to see some Chardonnay casks giving it some character. Let's leave it at that. On the nose. And now, so what I'm worried about with this making this video is that my descriptions are going to start to get fewer and far between as I start to get more and more baffled by these cask finishes. And yeah, we're starting to get there already. Like, there is an applesauce thing going on, but it's like an applesauce you squeeze a little bit of lemon into. Lemony applesauce is what I'm getting. Yeah, it smells a little bit kind of musty as well. But there is a nice core of malt in there. There's some oatmeal happening. A little bit of like some herbaceous elements, like a little bit of basil in there, a little bit of parsley, orange peel. Again, a lot of orange so far. But I cannot get over that almost like lemony applesauce thing kind of sitting right in the center. It doesn't, on its own, I'm not opposed to that note. It just doesn't feel like it doesn't feel balanced. It doesn't feel like it's integrating very well. Okay, there's some other stuff. Vanilla, of course. A little cinnamon, a little like, well, Irish breakfast tea, really. Okay. Yeah, it feels like kind of what it is, which was, you know, a fairly simple Speyside malt that just got a quick re-racking in some very different casks. And hasn't completely adjusted yet. It's not a bad nose, it's just a little bit weird. All right, on the palate, here we go. Oh. Yeah, no, well, no. Ooh. Ah. So first of all, this gets kind of very drying and acrid on the back end. But it also like throws kind of this astringent green apple thing at me, which I'm not a huge fan. Let me try this again. Maybe it was just like a bad first impression. Let me try this again. Mm-hmm. Arrival's fine. Oh, yeah. Um, it's as if you ever been in like a practice room or something, and you're playing like one chord, and you can hear like in the next room over someone else is playing a completely different chord, and it's like so there's like a discordant effect, but it's not right there. It's kind of muffled a little bit. That's sort of what's going on here. It's not complete disharmony. It's the underlying whiskey here is fine. It's just like then there's something just a little bit not working coming in, almost from the outside. Arrives just fine. Lots of apple, lots of like stewed quince, which I'm into. A little apricot, pear, black tea, and then like there's this like it's like pear, but it's like apple and pear, but it's so it sounds like it should work, but it's like different, kind of slightly sour and astringent apple and pear that kind of comes in on the mid palate transition to the finish and just kind of holds there. And there's an additional like spicy element that also doesn't feel that integrated. Ooh. Little hints of like, what is that? Like, I'm really sorry, like a baby vomit kind of thing. Yeah, that's what that is. That's totally a baby vomit note. So it's like mutant, astringent, apple and pear, and a little bit of lemon too as well. Like with baby vomit, kind of interrupting this lovely malt whiskey experience you're having, with some spiciness on the back end as well. I almost like a, what is that? Like a green curry, like a Thai curry kind of thing happening. Let me give this one more shot. Oh, duh. So yeah, I started this off by saying I was hopeful that maybe like a white wine finish would work better than a red wine finish, and I'm gonna have to eat my words. I do not like this at all. The whiskey is fine. Yeah, like the Glendulin is fine. Glendulin's always fine. It's fine. No one cares, but it's fine. The finish is really just kind of wrecking this a little bit for me. It's and I'm gonna hope that water kind of brings it into line. But yeah, I'm not super enjoying this one. Sorry, Diageo. Let's give this some water. 2, 3, 4, 5. This is also the lowest strength of the bunch. It is 55%. Oh. No, I don't think water's going to solve that. We'll come back to it, though. Okay, moving on to the second of our Duff Towns that aren't actually Dufftown Distillery. This is Morlock. This is a non-age stated bottling called the Katana's Edge. Who comes up with these? The Katana's Edge. It is finished in Kanosuke, Japanese whiskey. Kanosuke is part of the, I think it's the Distill group, of which Diageo is a partner. See how this works? And is also finished partly in ex-Pinot Noir casks. What Pinot Noir? I don't know. They aren't telling me. But that's what it is, and it is bottled at 58%. And again, no age statement on this. It is one of the darkest whiskeys here, however. So let's give this a shot. Now, Morlock is, again, if you talk to the old hands, they have a very particular image of Morlock as this very kind of meaty, savory, grungy style of Speyside sherried whiskey. My own experiences have kind of been all over the map. Like I've had those grungy Morlocks. I've also had ones which are just kind of like nice, fruity Speysiders. So I don't know really what to expect from this thing. Like ex-Japanese whiskey and Pinot Noir. Who knows? But let's see what we got here. Very difficult on the nose initially. Tight nose, not very expressive. I know Ralphie tells you not to swirl your glass, but when the nose is not doing anything, you really don't have a choice but to kind of just swirl it as violently as you can to kind of get it to speak up. Okay. So mud. A little bit of like red fruit, red currant, maybe some strawberry in there. Yeah, like green strawberry, and also a kind of green leafiness. Hard to nail down more than that. Slightly medicinal, but not like Isla medicinal. This is like old world, um, holistic medicine, that kind of thing. Like you mashed up herbs. Yeah. Really it's like spinach and hippie toothpaste. Is kind of the note there, with red fruit and mud and some vanilla now. Okay, so now there's a little bit of like yeah, just a kind of vanilla ice cream kind of thing. But I gotta be honest, I'm having to hunt for these notes. It's really not a very expressive nose. And it could be just like I gave these a little bit of time open this morning and yesterday just to try to get some air in them, to get them to talk a little bit more to me now that I'm tasting them. But it could just be like it hasn't been open long enough. There is a kind of vague spiciness going on, a little bit of like a kind of I don't even know. Yeah, we're back to red curry, I guess, that kind of thing. I'm sorry, that's like all I'm getting. I'm not getting a whole lot out of this. All right, on the palate, here we go. It does not smell like what the traditionalists will tell you, Morlock should smell like. But um, I don't really know what it smells. It smells like um, a malt whiskey that's been smashed with weird oak. That's what it smells like on the palate. To my surprise, this actually is more coherent than the Glendullan was. Um, it's still not my favorite whiskey in the world. It's a little bit kind of generic, to be honest with you. But it's not bad. Put it that way. All right, let me try this again. See if I can get some notes. It's a very kind of aggressive, spicy finish. Okay. Up front, very malty. Malted milk balls all the way. Intermingled with some... It's not really red fruit. It's almost more like a red fruit reduction sauce or something. Like you just... Like, if you kind of mix together all the IHOP red fruit syrups, including some maybe that don't exist, you just kind of took a sip of that. That's a little bit what's going on. But with the maltiness up in front, and some apple and some pear and some heavy kind of black tea sorts of notes up front. And then it gets a little weird. Let me try this again. Because you got all that happening up front. And then what actually makes its way past that to the back of your mouth, and it actually has a fair amount of mouth length. What makes its way past that is like mud and like overstewed tea and a kind of weird leafiness. That kind of like spinach and hippie toothpaste thing again. this has a very unusual form, but it kind of works, or at least for me, it works better than than the Glendolin was. Yeah, I don't know if I can add much more to that. So lots of stuff happening up front. Red fruit, maltiness, big explosion, and then just kind of mud and black tea and tannins and spice going back. I'm curious to see what this does with water, though. My biggest complaint about this is just that it didn't need to be Morlock. Like, nothing about this suggests, triple distillation, partial triple distillation, or any of the hallmarks of the weirdness in the character that Morlock tends to bring, or those distilleries which are like Morlock tends to bring. It just feels like, a malty malt whiskey that's had some unusual wood happen to it. That's what I'm getting. But it kind of works anyways. All right, we're going to give this a couple squirts. We'll come back to it. Row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh God, I am almost out of water, which would be a problem if I hadn't also brought the mug, because I knew this would happen. So the mug is going to be right there when I need it. Do not think I don't come to these things prepared. All right, moving on to what I thought was going to be next after the unfinished ones. This is the Oban, 11-year-old, the soul of Calypso. I very much doubt that, but we're going to try it anyways. 11-year-old Oban. Oban, very interesting little distillery on the west side of the Highlands. I don't think I've reviewed an Oban on this channel before, but it's one. It's a distillery I want to say I should pay more attention to it, but that's not exactly what I mean. If there were more interesting releases of Oban out there, I would be very much paying more attention to it. But as at the moment, like it's another one where I've just never seen an independent bottling of it. And the officials, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things where 15 years ago I tried the standard 14-year-old and I moved on to Kleinlich and Lagavulin pretty quickly. But I'm happy to try this. I'm a little bit worried because this one was finished in Caribbean pot still rum casks. I am a huge fan of Caribbean pot still rum. But I could see this going wrong very easily. Very easily, because not only because Oban is it kind of works through its delicacy, through its subtlety. It's a very much an ensemble cask kind of malt, but also because they don't say what kind of Caribbean pot still rum it is. I mean, it could be like Moni Musk. I know. So Diageo does the Captain Morgan stuff, right? Some of that in the U.S. you're getting Virgin Island stuff, but in the rest of the world you're getting a lot of Moni Musk, right? So that could be it. But Diageo also does a lot of stuff in Venezuela, Pampero, Diplomatico. So it could be that. I don't really know, but I'm worried. I'm a little worried. All right, let's stick our noses into this, see what happens. So it's fruity. I mean, again, like the Morlock, it's a very kind of reduced nose. It's very tight. Most of what I'm getting is kind of fruitiness. Just a kind of like generic fruitiness. High toned. Apricot. Apple. Black pepper. Well, really white pepper, I guess. Um, some, some, not pu'er, um, oolong tea. Not good oolong, like cheap oolong. Apple, pear, apricot. Come on, wake up. Suggestions of red, like almost a underripe strawberry thing. White currant, maybe. I don't know. It feels very kind of vague and just it doesn't want to talk to me very much. And again, maybe that's just because I haven't left this open long enough. But um, it could also just be like that's how it is after, because sometimes when you do a finish, right, it's you're gonna think the flavors are gonna stack on top of each other, but sometimes you can almost get like a canceling effect. It's like if you play two not fitting sound waves at the same time. They can almost cancel each other out. That's almost the impression I'm getting here. There's this kind of whisper of fruitiness coming through. Not a whisper. It's like a regular speaking voice, but certainly nothing like I would be expecting from Oban, which is this very expressive, interesting malt finished in, pot still rum cask. Yeah, I'm gonna give up with that. On the palate. Again, like the Glendolin, this is really not doing it for me. It's kind of like weird sour and like vomity, and I mean there's fruit there, but it's yeah. Well, let me try this one more time. Yeah, no. Okay, so you've got a pretty solid core malt here. Once again, apple, pear, um, malted milk balls, some like Russian caravan tea with a little bit of lapsang in there for a little bit of smokiness. Not peat really, but like that little bit of campfire effect. All that's working well. But it's interrupted by just especially on in the transition to the mid palate. There's just kind of like this, like gross, vomity fruitiness, which I'm really not enjoying at all. Ooh. In terms of notes, yeah, like nectarine, a little bit of mango, apricot again, but just like not nice. Not nice. This is not nice. Black pepper. The form is decent. It's actually like there's more substance heading back into the back of my mouth than on the Mortlock was doing. But yeah, in terms of flavor, I'm just not enjoying this. I'm really not enjoying this. So we're gonna give this some water. Come back to it. Oh wait, wrong one. 2, 3, 4, and 5. This was. Did I mention this is 58% alcohol? It's 58% alcohol. Sorry, I'm dropping some balls here. I apologize. Yeah, I think I'd have to compare them side by side. I think I like this more than the Glendullan, but not by much. All right, let's move on. This is one of the absolute standbys of these special releases, Talisker. This is the 2023, and it is called the Wild Explorer. And it is finished in port, but a couple different kinds of port. White, tawny, and ruby port. No age statement, bottled at 59.7%. I think it's the strongest thing here, actually. So let's see what happens on the nose. So rather, it's a little bit of a relief on my part. This smells like Talisker. It's got that kind of like twiggy, slightly floral peat that's going on. So not really Isla peat. It's not maritime in the same way. It's not throwing like, you know, like a bunch of salt water at your face. It's peat that is really like you've thrown a bunch of twigs and leaves and stuff into the fire. And maybe some flowers as well. That's the core of this. With some like weird, fun, savory notes. A little bit of like a mustard seed kind of element. Pleasantly, the port casks really aren't showing themselves too aggressively. There's a little vanilla here. Certainly some like black tea, English breakfast tea happening. Old coffee grinds. Oh, okay, hold on. Really, it's the white port that kind of shows its hand first. So there's a little bit of like a, I don't know, kind of generic winey sweetness, kind of, or like a grapey sweetness coming through after a second. But it's still balanced off by the savory notes, a little bit of muddiness happening. If the ruby port and the tawny port are in play, they really aren't kind of showing up, at least on the nose at this point. On the palate. Again, it's that transition into the mid palate that is the problem. That being said, okay, so what you're getting here, 90% of what you're getting here is a pretty good textbook cast strength young Talisker. And that's great. You got the twiggy peat. You got that slight floral thing. You got the mustard seed. You got like almost like a soy sauce element going on, like some weird savory stuff. Black tea, kind of grungy barley. It's just ruined by this little kind of interruption, like in the transition to the mid palate, not really even anywhere else, not even on the finish of these kind of like, I don't want to say like gross red wine vomity sorts of notes. I don't mean it to be that strong, but something, it's like, you know, you had too much a friend of yours had too much red wine at a party, and they like threw up, but not too much, like just a little bit, just like just a little bit. And there's a little bit of that happening, like oxidative red wine throw up, kind of thrown in into your Talisker as it's trying to make its way to the mid palate. And it's not ruining the experience, just as your friend having a red wine throw up wouldn't completely ruin like a good party. But you know, it's kind of getting in the way of things a little bit. Uh, yeah, it's still mostly. I mean, mostly this works. Mostly this works. It's just I don't know. I don't know why these big corporations feel the need to do this. To take what is basically already working. It most of what's happening here is just Talisker in American oak, and that's wonderful. That's all you need. That's all you need. But you know, hey, that isn't marketable. Know what's marketable? Port. Finish is marketable. So let's throw it in port for a while. Unfortunately, then it's going to taste like it's finished in port. And this is the result. I still kind of like it anyways. It's just, it has some issues. All right, let's give that some water. We should move on. 4, 5. Okay. That one might need a little bit more. This is the strongest one here. You will notice, on the whole, I kind of liked the clean bottlings more than the finished bottlings so far. So far, you will notice we have one left. And it is the one, in some ways, I'm most excited about, in some ways, I am most worried about. The reason why I'm excited is it's Lagavulin. This is the Ink of Legends bottling. It's the Lagavulin 12-year-old. Now, Lagavulin 12-year-old, for me, used to be, again, we're talking 5, 10 years ago, this used to be malt royalty. Like, I would consistently give this stuff 91, 92. I couldn't afford it that often, but yeah, it was up there. And this is also a Lagavulin 12-year-old. It just happens to be finished in Don Julio Añejo casks. Oh boy. 56.4% ABV. But yeah, Don Julio Añejo. I'm really hoping it's just the Añejo and they haven't thrown any 1942 casks in here, because that will, I mean, that kind of like pineapple vanilla latte nightmare will absolutely throw off even Lagavulin. And I love Lagavulin. Like Lagavulin, I don't think I've reviewed any here on this channel, and that kind of shows just the extent to which I kind of got used to this profile. Maybe like it's Bowmore for me maybe has a higher ceiling than Lagavulin, but you know what? Most Bowmores suck, and most Lagavulins do not suck. So I am. It's one of my absolute favorite malts out there, and yeah, I'm eager to try this, even though it's been finished in Don Julio Añejo casks. Let's do it on the nose. Weirdly, it's actually less peaty on the nose than the Talisker is. But, it still smells like Isla. It still smells like Lagavulin. Like, it still smells like this mixture of like peat campfire by the sea meets like coal smoke. Oh yeah, it's what I love about Lagavulin. It's the one that isn't just it's one of the ones at least that isn't just about the peat. It's also about like these other smoky touches, like a campfire character, and almost like like a coal smoke industrial like chimney sweep kind of character. Does it smell a hair bit okay, so I'm not getting any agave notes on that, but on this. But maybe that's not surprising me, considering like, I mean, Don Julio is trying to avoid agave notes as much as possible in their tequila, so maybe that's not the biggest surprise in the world. It does smell a little bit more sweety confectionery than I would have expected from standard Lagavulin. Lots of vanilla. It's like a peat candy kind of thing, if that makes sense. But the fundamentals are there. The fundamentals are there. Seawater, peat, campfire, coal smoke, little fennel, dirt, mud, and a little bit of malt thrown there. A little bit of like a kind of cooked apple thing. Baked apple. Black tea. What I'm missing really more than anything else is the complexity that I used to expect from 12-year-old lag. Yeah, it's just not a very deep nose, but maybe the palate will change that. Let's see. Again, to my delight, not a lot of sort of weird tequila agave fake additives note coming through here. It tastes like a very oak-driven Lagavulin, and that's kind of fine. It's kind of fun. Hold on, let me try this again. Yeah, Lagavulin candy really is what this is. Peat, coal smoke, campfire, fennel, mud, seawater, all that stewed together, and then you're going to dump a whole bunch of vanilla in and like some confectioner's sugar and make it into like almost like a fudge. Yeah, that's Lagavulin fudge is what this tastes like. Does it work? Yes. Is it delicious? Yes. But I feel like I'm being pandered to. I mean, it's good delivery, good form. But it's just so simple. It's so simple. Honestly, you know what this reminds me of is the a year, maybe 2 years ago, I reviewed Big Pete, the blended Isla malt, which just tasted like, the old trick: take some peat smoke, smother it in, American oak, and it yummy. This basically reminds me of that, and that's fine. But this is what? This is pushing $200, and it's Lagavulin. Like, this is one of the best distilleries in the world, and it just doesn't show. It isn't showing that level of complexity to it. I don't hate it or anything, but what's the saying? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. All right, let's give this some water. I'm really hoping water doesn't bring out the the Don Julio. 3, 4, 5. All right, let's go through these. Give these a final score. And since my Sharpie seems not to be working on the bottles today for some reason, I'm just going to type them in, if you don't mind. Type in my scores for memorizing later. All right, back through. We are going to return to the rose aisle. which I found rather delightfully, pure and straightforward in the first time around. Let's see what I think now. Development on the Rose Isle 12-year-old. Not really. It's kind of just settled into a nice bourbon cask, vanilla forward, malt forward, orchard fruity sort of malt on the nose. Simple, but you know what? That's fine. It's pretty perfect. The price point's not fine, but that's another question. Yeah, not a ton of development to speak of. Let's see what happens on the palate. Let me try that again. I think I'm still washing the Lagavulin out of my mouth. You know what? I like this. I'm sorry, I know the internet is going to be more excited by friggin' port cask finishes and crap like that. I like this. It's very, very straightforward space side. It is, what has happened with the addition of water is the oak tannins have reasserted themselves a little bit, so there's a little bit more texture and a little bit more of kind of like a tea tannin kind of finish and mouthfeel all the way around. But it's just so clean and delightful, and man, I could break this out on any given like Tuesday night and enjoy it thoroughly. Not super duper exciting or anything, but there's no flaws to speak of. I'm going to give this 85 points. I'm going to give this an 85. And it makes, well, what I really want now is, I mean, to some extent, it's what I want with all good, decent space ciders, is I want this aged 20 plus years in a, like a third fill refill cask. I want to see what it can really do with some age and some complex oxidization and stuff like that. But I have absolutely no complaints about what this is doing here and now. 85 points for the origami kite. Kleinlich. This was the very, very tropical one, the first time through, and one of my favorites actually. Let's see what happens on the nose. The flowers actually recede a little bit. It's more, yeah, it's much more straightforward with just oak and those little hints of like barrel influence. Yeah, if you nose this blind, you really, why am I saying you? If I nose this blind, I would really think like, Cooley, like middle-aged Cooley. It just has a very Irish vibe to it. Lots of tropical fruit. It's just that little hint of like savory grunginess that would give this away. That's it. On the palate. Actually, whereas the Glendullan, I'm sorry, not the Glen, the Rose Isle, kind of lost a little hint of its spiciness on the palate. This one actually gets more spicy on the palate. There's a little bit of like a, like a Dan Dan noodle Sichuan numbing spiciness to this Kleinlich now. But it's doing that in this kind of halo of like tropical fruit stew with some vanilla thrown in. And it kind of works. What am I going to score this? Especially like with water, it's not the most complex malt in the world, but it does have complexity, and there's just, and again, cannot understate the value of just the purity of expression here. Not going to go crazy, but I'm going to give this an 88. 88 points out of 100 for the Kleinlich Jazz Crescendo. And a 2 out of 10 for that name, by the way. I don't think it's the worst name here, but yeah, it's not one of the best. All right, moving on to the Glenkinchie. This was, going to the second round, this might have been my favorite of the bunch. It's the most expensive. It's the most traditionally presented, but still. Development. So I was really getting a lot of chocolate orange before, but now it really smells like you're throwing some actual fresh orange in there. Like you just unpeeled a bunch of mandarins and threw them in there, like sweet oranges. But it's still got the chocolate orange, the muddiness, the tea, those little details in there. I actually really like this. It's got that. What's kind of winning me over is those little hints of grassiness and flowers. Those little like third tier flavor profile things. Little extra details. Yeah, good nose. Not a ton of development aside from the fruit factor just becoming a little bit brighter, but still on the palate. One more time, just to check. Yeah, the way this kind of just grabs hold of your palate and holds and holds and holds just kind of indefinitely is, I mean, for me, just kind of raises this head and shoulders over the rest of the field. I don't know if I can make it to 90 with this, but it's darn close. One more time. Flavor-wise, not a whole lot of development. It's still, the basics are still that melange of like orange, dark orange chocolate and black tea and like Bordeaux beef bouillon reduction stuff. But it's bringing so much depth and so much just like texture and commitment and passion to what it's doing that it feels like it's that. So not a ton of notes to add from before, but it's really kind of reasserting itself nicely. I'm going to give this 89 plus out of 100. It's absolutely not worth. What do I want to say about this? I've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to see what I have left to comment about this Glenkinchie. It doesn't need to be this old. It doesn't feel like an essentially wood-driven malt. It feels like Diageo could present like a really good 14-year-old, 16-year-old Glenkinchie presented at this strength, and it wouldn't be any less than this, really. The age isn't doing it any extra favors. It's just yeah, it feels like it's just like a great little Cinderella moment here. It's a very subtle distillate that's been given a chance to shine for once, with these, halfway decent American and European casks. 89 plus. I'd love to see more stuff like just more. Yeah, I would love to see more better presented Glenkinchie and more stuff like this in general. Still not worth $400 though. All right, moving on to the Glendullan, which might have been my least favorite of the flight. Let's see if water has improved matters at all. Even with a mug there, I may still want to run out of water. Let's see. All right, so at least in the nose, water has kind of integrated this Glendullan a little bit better with those kind of weird lemony applesaucey Chardonnay notes I was getting. It now really smells like, again, just a decent fruit-forward, slightly herbaceous space cider, but now with a shot of almost a lemon pith kind of thing running through it. And it kind of works. It kind of works. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens on the palate. Here we go. One more time. Yeah, it's still got that kind of like unpleasantly dry, astringent, weird back end. And the sense of clash between the apple pear maltiness of the distillate and the appley, like lemony thing happening with the wine. And there's some baby vomit in there. There's just some baby vomit in there. That's just how this is. It is better with water. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't want to drink it. And let's leave it at that. I'm going to give this... these are impossible to score. I'm going to give this 80 plus. 80 plus out of 100. Just not super good. And let's move on to the Mortlock. The Katana's Edge. Now with a little bit of water. Of these kind of central three finished whiskeys that I found sort of weird and awkward, this was probably my favorite of the bunch. So I'm interested to see what happens with water. Okay. So I had complained about the nose being very, very like tight before. With water, it opens up a little bit. So yeah, I am getting pear, apple, quince stewed together with some parsley sprinkled on top. That's really what this smells like. And maybe stew some like oatmeal in there as well. Okay. I mean, it's just on first contact, it feels like one of those cases where it just smells kind of like a generic space hider a little bit. Like this didn't need to be Morlock of all things. But there's really nothing wrong with it. Let's see what happens on the palate. There's still a little bit of leafiness and a little bit of like a red fruit thing coming through from the Pinot Noir cask. But for the most part, yeah, this presents as just a really kind of nice, fruity vanilla space cider. Actually, if you will forgive me, may I try the Rose Isle one more time? Like this shouldn't be, on paper, this shouldn't be hard for the Mortlock because like Rose Isle is nothing. It's a new distillery. It's meant for the blends. Mortlock should crush this, but I just want to try it one more time, see what happens. No, the Rose Isle is a little bit better. Not a lot better, but it's bringing just a hair bit more detail into how it delivers what it's got. The Morlock might be a hair bit more extended and on the finish. It might bring a little bit more like dry tea tannins to it. Yeah, but I don't think it's actually better. I'm gonna give this 84 or 84 plus. No, it does improve with water. I'm gonna give this an 84 plus out of 100. Oh, let's type that. Yeah, so certainly not bad whiskey by any means, but I kind of prefer the Rose Isle. And you may quote me on that. I prefer this Rose Isle to this Morlock. Sorry. Leave your negative comments down below. All right, here we go. Moving on to the Oban Soul of Calypso, which is the worst name here. It just is. On the nose, this was really one I really did not like on first contact. It feels a little bit more integrated than it was without water. But it still just feels kind of vague. It feels like I'm nosing a pear liqueur or something. Yeah, so like take a generic, well-made but pear liqueur, like a pear maceration kind of thing with lots of sugar. Sprinkle a little bit of like black pepper and maybe some herbs in there. That's more or less what this smells like. Ooh. palate, that vomit thing is not good. Yeah, this does not work. It doesn't work. This does not work. Oh. Hmm. So again, it's the delivery of this, the form of this is fine. Decent arrival, good, not good, but reasonably acceptable finish, and transition into the finish. Hangs on a reasonably good long time, but the flavors are just not. They don't seem okay. Oh, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. Oban's a nice malt. I would love to try more of them, but this is not one I would. Even if I had a full bottle of this, it would not get any kind of love from me. I'm going to give this. What am I going to give this? The form is okay. It's just I don't like how it tastes. 78 points. 78 points. And I'm kind of pulling that out of my ass because I don't know what else to say. 70 is wait, is that really worse than the Glendolyn? Let me try. Yeah, the Glendolyn is kind of awkward and clashy, but yeah, the Oban is not is worse. It just is. Please stop with finishes. Please just stop. Just stop. You don't have to keep doing them. There's no reason to keep doing them. Just stop. Just stop. Moving on to the Talisker Wild Explorer. Finished in a whole slew of port casks, which I'm hoping will not come across as further present when I nose this. Yeah, they're kind of there. They're kind of there. So the first thing I notice when I nose this is the peat has kind of toned down with water. There's still a lot of twigginess and leafiness going on here. It's very Talisker, but it's the peat has kind of left the building. And what I'm left with is a lot of, stewed apples and pears, stewed peaches, that little hint of almost like a generic, like raisininess almost. Yeah, let's go with that. Like raisin liqueur, if that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Let's go with that though. Little hints of IHOP syrup, IHOP like red fruit syrup. But then like the mustard seed, the weird like spice cabinet character of Talisker carries through on the palate. So it is doing basically the same thing that I remember doing before, which is, it arrives, I'm getting set for a wonderful Talisker experience. And then like there's a little bit of like a red wine vomit kind of thing. And then it goes away and I am back to my delicious Talisker experience. Mm. 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 Water kind of accentuates a little bit of spiciness, improves the mouthfeel a little bit. Otherwise, not a whole lot of change. Like it's still doing the same things, pretty much. What the hell do I score these? God, I would have loved this if they just didn't finish it in freaking port. I mean, this would have been an 89 or something if they just not touched it, if they just left it alone. As it is, oh my God, what do I do with this? Do I like it more or less than the Kleinlich? Let me try the Kleinlich again. I like it less than the Kleinlich. Let's give this an 87. 87 out of 100. And so what happened there is I was torn between like an 88 and an 87. And I remember I gave the Kleinlich an 88. And sometimes just going back and trying the thing you tried before, you scored before, is the way to decide these things. Yeah. 87 points. And now, the Lagavulin, Ink of Legends. And it still just smells like Lagavulin by way of Big Pete. It still just smells like, one of the best distilleries on Islay, dumbed down to be yummy peat combined with delicious bourbon cask. And that's kind of it. On the palate, so it's delicious, right? It's delicious. Like, as a fan of Islay peated whiskeys, I am absolutely enjoying this. But is it bringing like depth and complexity? Is it challenging me? No, absolutely not. Like, this is just it's Lagavulin candy. That's what it is. It's delicious, but that's it. That's kind of it. It's just hitting those, basic notes, the same notes that I would expect Big Pete or any other kind of like generic peated whiskey to be hitting. And that's kind of all I got here. Score wise, Gets a little bit more grippy with water, which is nice. A little bit more peppery. I'll give this an 87 plus. But it's certainly not in the same league as the, you know, Lagavulin 12s of old. And yeah, that is the Diageo special releases. What the hell have I got here? All right, so the winner of the bunch, not that, is the Glenkinchie, 27-year-old. It's also the most expensive, but you know, 89 points. Runner-up is the Kleinlich, 10-year-old. It's just a really good presentation of the cleaner side of Kleinlich. 88 points. I enjoyed this. And then we're walking down. We're going to the Lagavulin. What the hell is this? Ink of Legends. 87 plus. Talisker Wild Explorer. This could have been so much better if they just left the hell alone. 87 points. It's really like a 90 minus 3, but put it down as an 87. And then what have we got left? Rose Isle. Origami Kite, 12-year-old. 85 points. Certainly not my favorite, you know, not the most complex or detailed malt I've ever had, but doing what it's doing in a very clean and lovely way. And then what do we got? Wortlock Katana something, 84 plus. And then the real dregs of the bunch, the Glendullan, which does not like Chardonnay, 80 plus, and the God help us, the Oban in Caribbean pot still port casks, 78. I did not like this at all. And that's it. That's it. 1 hour and 43 minutes in, and we are cutting this off. Thank you for watching. Don't say I never do anything for you. Cheers. Bye.